Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. On this episode, we are joined by Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza Podcast. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. We are so happy to have one of our most favorite co-hosts and most cultured and experienced podcast brothers, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza Podcast, who hails from the Republic of Kenya in East Africa. He is a two-time nominee for Best African Diasporan Podcast by the APDA, and he has been a presenter at the Afros and Audio Podcast Festival discussing Pan-Africanism. And he is slated, and he will be, an ambassador for the 2024 Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. Welcome to the show, Sambaza.
Thank you, Jen. Welcome.
Hey, how are
and
you?
Hope you had a good day, too.
Glad to see you here at a different time. Hopefully we'll have some folks chime in. I'm really excited about today. We will acknowledge Earth Month in acknowledgement of Earth Day, which is an annual event celebrated globally on April 22nd to demonstrate support for environmental protection, among other Earth conscious items. And so we have a special guest that I'm really excited to bring in celebration of Earth Day, and we'll get into a conversation about sustainability. Sustainability is essential for maintaining the balance of ecosystems. It helps in preserving natural resources and biodiversity, ensuring that wildlife and habitats are protected and can thrive. So really excited to get into this conversation about Earth Month, and Earth Day is approaching. Sambaza, your thoughts on Earth Day?
Oh man, I'm stoked for Earth Day. You know, I love the environment, and I think I love trees. Somehow, I just love trees, and I think it's one of the best times in the year that I get to figure out what it's all about. You know, Earth and how we can take care of our environment and all the good stuff that makes the ecosystem alive. You know, everything is part of something in the world. It's not, separate. So when you look at Earth,
Right.
you kind of find out about all these things, like light, conserving light, solar power. You find out about, when they make, like the way trees, you plant trees. There's nothing as beautiful as planting trees, right? And then you
Sure.
notice that it makes some changes in the economy. One fun thing, not a fun thing, but it's really weird. But currently in Dubai, there's a lot of flooding on their metro system because of climate change. So that's something to think about as we go into Earth Day.
Definitely. I'm glad you shared that. And so let's get into our guest and bring her into this conversation. Our
Yes.
next guest is from the great state of Florida, and she is launching a sustainability and real estate consultancy specializing in off-grid disaster resilient building infrastructure. So whether you're looking to build a net zero home or disaster resilient commercial property, she works with clients to navigate the exciting world of self-sufficient living. So this is actually a part of her business, guiding them in design or retrofitting real estate projects that minimize environmental impact and maximize independence. So from renewable energy integration, rainwater harvesting to sustainable building materials, she collaborates to design the future of off-grid living. So this is exactly what we're talking about with wanting to acknowledge the things that we need to be mindful for Earth Month, Earth Day, and incorporate that into our lives to preserve the planet. So with further ado, we will add Miss Damita C.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Jen. Hi, Sambaza.
Hey, welcome. How are
Welcome.
you?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you all. You're all a lot of fun. Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity.
For
Welcome.
sure.
All right, so we'll get into it. Ms. Demita, how do you incorporate sustainability in your daily routine? I know, but first of all, before even we get there, just give us a brief introduction of what, we kind of did not encapsulate everything. just give us a little bit about yourself. Then we can start the questions.
About myself?
Yes.
Oh, sure. So, as Jen was saying, I'm launching, my sustainability and real estate consultancy, and creatively, actually, though, let me note one thing creatively. Fun fact is that I am practicing guitar. And I also write. So I write like poetry, spoken word, and songs, things of that nature. So those are a few of my creative outlets. A fun fact about a healthy habit is been working out a bit more with Pilates and whatnot. So those
Okay.
are a few fun facts with just having healthier lifestyle, healthier habits. And so I'm here wanting to just bring more awareness and answer questions about just everyday sustainability, everyday
Sure.
eco-friendly. And, whether you're passionate about the earth or you want to have, sustainable infrastructure, if the power goes out, just want to be a
Mhm.
part of that conversation and awareness so people, have basic preparations in place. So, so glad to chat with you all.
All right. So
Yeah.
my first question will be in terms of how do you incorporate sustainability in your daily routine? And when I mean the daily routine, I mean you give us an idea with the real estate and lifestyle. How does that merge together?
So again, because most of the time, my clients are to be like B2B for companies. So talking on a macro, more micro level. For the context of your audience, I'm going to break it to more macro so that it's relatable for the everyday individual. So as I answer your question, Sambaza, if I would like to start with just reading actually a definition of sustainability, because what I found is there are many definitions because if I'm talking to someone that is more in the compliance sector of their company, sustainability means one thing to them versus if I'm talking to someone that is assessing the environmental facets of sustainability, it means something else to them. So I'm actually going to read just an overarching definition of sustainability so we could actually kind of be on the same page here. And this is especially for the environmental component of sustainability. It's essentially best practices that help conserve natural resources, things that help reduce pollution, things that have less impact on the environment. So this includes, using renewable energy sources, recycling, and just sustainable practices. So I just share that to set the foundation because when I've had these conversations, people have different definitions of sustainability. So for myself, everyday sustainable practice are simply even down to reusing something. So, if I use a plastic bottle, I may refill it 2 or 3 times. I know you do have to be mindful of the amount of times you reuse a plastic bottle, but then you turn something that's a single use, instead of just using it and throwing away, reuse it, repurpose it. Um, and this is nothing new what I'm talking about here. Perhaps either one of your grandparents, we went to our grandparents' house, they had, plastic containers from, that were from the sour cream, right? Their sour cream container, reusing that, reusing a cottage cheese container. So these little habits aren't anything new. It's just sometimes different titles. But repurposing things, reusing things. If you buy, a jar of pickles, it comes in a glass jar, right? Instead of just throwing that glass jar away, that's a perfectly good container, right?
Right.
You could use that for Jen, our makeup brushes, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Sambaza, if you paint or you have kids, right? So if they
Yeah.
have crayons or markers, you can use that as a jar to put those items in. Even especially with kids, that's a jar if they wanted to, have a little frog pet or something. So again,
Okay.
repurposing something. So instead of it being a single use item, you can reuse it and get and extend the life for it.
For sure.
Those are just some very simple and practical things that you could do and that I do to just be more environmentally responsible. And it also saves us money, right? Instead of going out and
For sure.
buying now a whole new set of Tupperware, well, I'm able to reuse, the container from my yogurt and
Mm-hmm.
reuse that to put leftovers in when I cook. And it's also great for, when somebody comes over your house, if you want to send them home with leftovers, right? You have a
For sure.
container that you can give them, they can take home with them, and you're not even, worried about missing that.
For
So
sure.
those are just simple ways that, and simple little habits where I reuse and repurpose things, and that
Mhm.
you could too.
Okay, thank you. But the the one that I'm excited about is it's real estate. Now, are we building houses that are eco-friendly? Like, do they have the solar system in there? Because I do love solar systems. I don't know why in America that's not the first option that you have to have in a
Mm,
house. I think that should be a standard. That's like the way you have electric and electric in the house. Solar should come with it as part of the option, just in case. Well, depending on where you are, because we have
Mhm.
different. It's huge. The U.S. is huge, and different places have different access to the sunlight. However, in those
mhm.
places that are have access to sunlight, to me, I would kind of want to use sustainable energy, even wind energy, for that
Yes.
matter,
Mhm.
to be able to power these houses and maybe bring down the cost of energy. And instead of having these issues of the power grid, we could, create more power to send it back to the grid. So when you talk about real estate, I really want to find out this. You're in the state of Florida, to understand, and in
Mhm.
Florida, there's a lot of sunlight. So with that comes the idea of having to have more houses equipped with the solar energy. Plus, if you're close to the sea, I mean, that wind, depending on which time of the year, it could be enough to
Absolutely.
power some good, some good machines out there with the wind energy. How is this part of the Creative Legends? Is Legends LA company? How does it come in to that realization that, hey, this is a place that we can get into, and this is a place that there is an opportunity to make our mark in this world?
Absolutely. And so I love these conversations. And I will preface that there are times when I will jot down notes so I can do research, as I will not speak outside of the scope of of what I know. But Sambaza, again, I love this. So y'all let me know what our time frame is here with this
Are
conversation,
you
because
good?
these are the things that I get so excited about talking about. So one of the things that you actually, well, that we're fine, and when I say we, other industry professionals, whether they be people that are retrofitting for solar or whatnot. Uh, on the consumer side, some people are concerned with having solar, for instance, solar on their roof. There are people that are concerned with the nuances of that, because there's not a clear definition from the warranty side of things, as well as
Mhm.
who pays for what in insurance. So in the event of, for instance, I was talking with a guy the other day. Now this was more on the commercial side versus residential, but for instance, he had a portfolio of multifamily properties. And so when I was talking with him about, okay, had you ever, looked into, integrating alternative energy sources, or reduce your energy bill, etc. His concern was, who pays for what. And he knew someone that had, for instance, solar shingles, but then when there was whether it was a hurricane or some type of wind that came through and it blew the shingles off, there was a discrepancy in who was going to pay to get that fixed. So there are some people that they're still uncertain about getting solar because in the event of, shingles getting blown off, or if the solar panel blows off and it damages the roof, the roofer company, with that solar on there can be some tug of war on, okay, does this fall under the roof warranty or the solar panels? And so those are one concern that consumers as well as investors have. And so, of course, an alternative to that is you can have solar panels on the ground. Now, you do have to have enough. You do need a little more space for that, depending on how much backyard or whatnot you have for that. But there are discrepancies. Some people are just concerned with the insurance factors of things, the warranty and whatnot. But again, this is why I'm thankful to be a part of these conversations, because it's a part of educating people and bringing people to the table that answer those questions of, okay, here's how you can achieve integrating, having alternative energy sources. You mentioned wind too, Sambaza, having these alternative energy sources, answering people's questions with, okay, in the event of a damage, this is how you can build your infrastructure with it, with the liability factor of it, insurance wise. So I'll give you a perfect case study of people that have set up infrastructure. So there's a property down in another area of Florida. I forget how many acres it's on. It was several dozen acres. This is almost like an estate property. And this house, they have a whole house where they built the generator. So they built a whole generator system in there. So they have solar. They have solar on. They have solar on the. They had horse stables, so they had solar panels on the horse stables. They had solar in other regions of the property on the roof, as well as panels that were built out. And they had a whole separate building that where they had the generator, so they were able to store that solar energy. So that is a perfect example of a completely off-grid property, because they were net positive, meaning they generate more. They generate a surplus of energy. And so they can store that in their generators. And so, but they're able to achieve that with many acres. They're built in a municipality where they can get those things, the permits for that type of infrastructure. But you do see that as a trend more, especially with higher net worth individuals. They are being intentional on acquiring properties in areas where they can build, and have much solar, wind, water, those alternative energy sources, because they build in areas where they can get those things permitted.
And then, so somebody mentioned about solar panels and the benefits that a homeowner can have. And I want to say when they first became really popular, a lot of times you got a credit on your filing for your income taxes if you had purchased them and things like that. And then I've been looking up on different ways on how people can incorporate these practices of off-grid living. And but you said like this, sometimes there's some challenges with that. I'd like to hear more about some of the things that I guess what we can consider a challenge. Having a backup power supply is one of the things I saw on the list. Solar panels, again, people growing their own food is another way, just to be more on the side of off-grid living. But sometimes it can be costly. What are some other challenges you have come across as far as off-grid living?
So to clarify your question, can you clarify? You're asking
Yeah.
what the challenges are as far as people being able to get solar, or you're
Or
saying
just
expense part of the challenge?
So not just solar, that's being one example of off-grid living. Just trying to be more mindful of being more sustainable. We talked about some ways that people can, incorporate those practices into their life, starting with plastics and saving more rather than creating all this extra waste, even down to, jars and, containers and things like that. And then on a larger scale, from homeowners' perspective, they may want to invest in getting solar panels for the house. I've been looking up different ways that people can be more sustainable, backup power supplies. What are some of the, I guess, that you've seen with clients and things like that they've run into, maybe a problem or a snag in wanting to be more sustainable, I guess.
Yes. So one of the challenges can be, depending on where you're living,
Mm-hmm.
the permitting for solar panels, etc. Because believe it or not, there are some HOAs, because they want to have continuity in the way in the integrity of how the houses look. Meaning, when you drive in their neighborhood, they want to have a theme.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want a neighborhood where you're driving and there's chickens coming out of one yard. A not party bus. What do you call the bus? The travel bus. What do you call it's escaping me.
Yeah.
The when you travel,
Yeah,
the large. What'd you say?
caravan. Is it a caravan bus or the tour bus?
Okay, yeah, basically the size of a tour bus. And when people, some people have those when they're traveling long distance, parked in the front.
Oh, like
Next
an
has
RV.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. That.
Okay.
Some HOAs, have these protocols in place because they want continuity in the neighborhoods. And I'm just giving you examples of how, some HOAs, they have rules where they have rules on the solar. I've seen where it's like, okay, you can only have solar panels on this side of the roof and not the other. Some don't want solar panels at all. Again, that's their way of helping to just across the board maintain continuity in the neighborhood. So it's not, okay, an RV parked over here, a yacht on the side of the street here. You have, chickens and goats running out over here. Some neighborhoods don't want to maintain aesthetics that don't include that. So one way to be mindful of that is, if you're going to acquire properties, to just, read the HOA policies, or, some people intentionally shop. There definitely was a trend with COVID with people that were intentionally actually purchasing outside of an HOA because they wanted to have they wanted to have that flexibility. If they wanted to go get some chickens, they wanted to be able to have the freedom to do that. If they wanted to put solar, they literally were in a neighborhood that didn't have any HOA, that didn't have any clauses that impeded or hindered them from being able to get solar. So that is one snag that people have found, have come across, is it could be where they live, their HOA doesn't permit the solar. Another thing people have had to look at is, the permitting for solar. There are some regions where they're just now getting up to it being giving the permits for the solar.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some areas where it's a lot more seamless and easy to get permits than others. So you could be in an area where maybe it's not your HOA that is impeding you from getting solar. It could be your municipality with being able to get permitting to get solar if for instance, solar on your roof. So a simple workaround around that is there are battery pack, maybe the wrong word, pardon me, but battery storage batteries that you can install. For instance, I've seen like in the back of the house, typically some have put it in the same room where like the water heater is.
Okay.
And that solar battery pack can connect to a generator that is outside, a solar power generator. In that generator, you can store additional power. So now you don't just have a solar power generator, you have a battery pack that can store additional power, and that can uh, uh, increase the amount of power that you have. And you can be self-sufficient on that for longer, having that battery pack. I've seen sometimes two or three panels of those batteries, and it can extend the
Yeah,
amount
because I noticed that most houses here, the standard for the solar power, and I don't want to stay so much on the solar power because I want people to understand this. Most of the American houses that they have will have the solar panel, whereby during the day it's using the solar panels and generates electricity with the inverter that's sitting over there. Then in the nighttime it switches off and then starts using whatever is on the grid. So if it has excess, it'll send whatever there is excess on during the day, and then it'll be use whatever is there, and then come up and turn off, and then use whatever is coming off from the grid. Now I'm in Africa. We've used it for 20 years, solar. I was telling Jen this, and we use the batteries. So the whole day it's charging. Then in the evening you switch on, and then now you start using the turning on the battery to kind of power your lights or TV and refrigerator. Well, not the refrigerator, but minimal stuff. And that's the basis of our solar energy that we use. I stay off the grid like let me say 100%. It's off the grid, and that's how we
awesome.
survive. Yeah. Here, when I saw the solar panels, I was like, where are the batteries that hold the power, so that at night you switch on and then you start using the battery. But I think that's one of the technologies that has to be worked on to be able to be more sustainable in the housing. I don't know if you have gotten to that part yet, of where you have these battery packs that will stay longer, and then in the night you kind of switch them on, and you can actually power a house fully, not half. Like you select some things. No, this is where you run the whole house: the AC, the electric cooker. That's if you're not using gas, and you watch TVs, and you have all these devices. A minimum of like 16 to 20 devices what we have in this current generation. So are we at that point where we are going to start using batteries, or are we going to be still going for during the day using the solar and then switch off to the grid, switch on to the grid in the evening?
That's a great question, Sambaza. And believe it or not, there is a developer even in our region that can achieve that. That does achieve that. Their homes are net zero. Okay. Now they don't have the official net zero title, because there's some nuances with having that exact title of net zero, but defined as the definition of their houses is net zero. And so they were able to achieve that because of how the infrastructure in all of their building though. So this particular developer, from the insulation, the way the window panes, the design of the house, just down to, and I'm just breaking down to how much wind is coming through from the window panes, from when you close the door. I'm just giving those micro examples of things that where energy can be lost a lot from is the windows, the doors, etc. But the way that the house is insulated, the design, the roof, that particular the developer, for instance, is Providence, and their homes, they do have the battery pack, and it can power the entire house. So this is one thing of bringing the awareness, because when you're aware and this is something that's important to you, you will shop savvy with this in mind. And so it is a lot easier to achieve being able to power an entire house with the battery pack if that's incorporated in how the house was built from the ground up. I'm not saying you can't achieve that in retrofitting the house. I'm just saying it would be beneficial to, if you were going to retrofit an existing house to achieve that successfully, the windows, some other things being rehab, renovated, to be able to get that just effectively without having there be the energy loss and whatnot. So hopefully this answers your question in totality, but there are, that's one developer that I know of that does have that. And as they have set the precedents, and other developers see how consumers are intentionally seeking to buy houses that are sustainable, that have sustainable infrastructure, that can be powered even in the event of a power outage, more developers will incorporate that in what they build. But I will say this, I was talking with an associate like 2 weeks ago, and people that are purchasing more let me say it this way, people of a higher net worth are seeking out these types of houses. They're seeking out these types of properties that are energy efficient and that can be resilient even in the event of a power outage. I'm trying to say this different ways so that people that, this is not their whole ecosystem, to break down the words, so I want to use more, not such large words. Your house can be powered in the event of the grid going down. This is what we're talking about here, and probably should have said this a little sooner, just so that somebody's like, huh, what's sustainability?
Okay. I think sustainability, to me, when you say sustainability, it's I think when that word is thrown to me, I'm looking at, wow, okay, this is how I can live with nature, right? How I can keep nature alive for my coming generation. Now, that will not be normal to anyone who has not gone through, all those, gone through the education, or being aware of what is out there in terms of following Earth Day and things like that. So you have to be ready to accept that in order to be able to learn about the sustainability. Now, I don't want to say that people are not aware, but us humans, the first thing we do is, you want to first feed, it's more like, I feed myself first, right? Food, shelter, and clothing. Once those are taken care of, then I can figure out other things. So at that point, sustainability is not, we're not thinking about sustainability. And most of the places, I can say comfortably, in the US, you'd find that and that's why you are saying you're referring to these people as high earning people, or high earning people would come in and think about it, because they've already been satisfied by the three basic things. Now, other people who are struggling to get the three basic things, sustainability is not going to be part of that.
Yeah.
It's going to be, first, you got to take care of that.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the people who say, okay, fine, I'm struggling to get those three basic needs of life. How can I make it to whereby I can make my house sustainable, even though, the little things I can do? Like, for
Yes.
example, they say, you, instead of, like the way you brush our teeth, you turn on the tap and let it run, and you're busy brushing your teeth. That you can save some energy by just turning off when you're brushing your teeth, and then turn it back off, and then that's some water save. Showering, yeah, this is PG, right? Okay. I'm gonna say this. So with me, this is a culture thing. Okay, I turn on the shower, but when I'm soaping myself, I turn it off. and then I turn it back on. I know it hits you back with the cold water, and then it then gets back to the hot water. But my wife doesn't like that because she's used to it running all the time. So she let it run through all, the shower is running all the time until I'm like, aren't you wasting water? Wouldn't you just stop just for that minute? And when you count, it's maybe like 2-3 minutes. But if you count those 2-3 minutes and add them up for like the whole year and add that into 10 years, that's a lot of water that you saved that does not go to waste.
You're muted, Jen.
Oh, thank you. And so people may want to be mindful about the length of time they spend in the shower to be mindful of conserving water.
Those are micro habits, Sambaza. You're absolutely right. So regardless of how much we're making, those are very tangible things that anyone that is taking a shower can incorporate. And, don't feel like you're alone with that, Sambaza. I had an associate, maybe it is a cultural thing where they maybe taught from a younger age, but someone of a different ethnicity. And she said that when she was younger, that's her dad actually would make her do that, would make them the children. That's how they were taught when they were young, and they were a different culture. But that's how they were taught when they were younger, when you're in the shower, you don't have to run the water the entire time.
Right.
But you're exactly right, Sambaza. And, you've quantified it for one person, 2 minutes, but let's say you're a household of 4 or 5 people, within a week, that's, the quantification of the amount of water that you save from that, is definitely, something. Now that is something to be mindful of, because sometimes you're just used to that water running. Right. But sometimes when you start to do it, you just see, I don't have to run the water the entire time that I'm in the shower. So those are very simple things, regardless of how much money you're making or not making. Those are the little habits. And I did actually jot down a few little micro things that are achievable for many people, whenever you like to share that.
We would love to get into that part of the conversation now, of like ways we can incorporate this. Because like we were saying earlier, these in the culture, this is something that we may not have always learned in school or even at home, and we, as being, adulting, and, we're homeowners. Some of us are homeowners. Some of us aspire to be homeowners. These are things that we need to think about. So definitely
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Please share.
So a few things that I jotted down, so that in every day we can have everyday just sustainable, self-thriving infrastructure, self-thriving ecosystem and tools, so that we can move forward regardless of whether the power is on, whether we have to jump in the car and we're, okay, our trip took much longer than we expected. So one of the first things is having a cell phone battery pack charger. Okay. Having a cell phone battery charger. So this is something you can keep in your purse, you can keep in your car. And so that as you're traveling, as you're out and about, you can power something that has that USB port. And, they do make them with different port accessibilities. But this is something very basic, because I'm out and about and people, sometimes we're not always somewhere where we can plug our phone in. And, my phone doesn't typically die out. I keep that battery pack in my phone, in my purse.
Yeah.
And so when I'm traveling, especially if I'm driving for several hours, or even regardless of me driving several hours, there's just sometimes where I'm not readily by somewhere I can plug my phone in. And
Sure.
I have an older car, so the lighter fixture where you can put is dicey. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that. I have my cell phone battery pack charger and I keep it moving. So I encourage everyone to have that, especially young ladies. That's great to have so that you're, never not stranded with not having any power.
For
And
sure.
and men, I mean, everybody needs it, because as a man, if you're the one providing that solution, and your woman is with you, look, that's just one other way of, oh, my man is ready. He's making sure that we are prepared. So again, this is good for everybody. I just want to break it down so each person can see the value.
And I want to add this.
Definitely.
It's
Mhm.
also a security measure, because plugging into this with a charge with your ports is one way of you getting hacked into your computer
Mm.
and your phones and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, shout outs to that for bringing that out. Thank you.
That's good. To get me talking about tech, Sambaza. We'll be on here much longer, but these are things of, the small tips, the small micro habits. It Once you begin to integrate these into your habits and lifestyle, you'll talk about these casually when you're out with people, and then you will begin to have more in-depth conversations, and your knowledge will expand, just like Sambaza, because there's many facets of how these things, these habits, and having, okay, making sure so I'm not stranded with my power being, at fundamental, can I power my phone?
Mm-hmm.
Can I just power the most basics? The second thing is, there's actually a portable battery pack to um, restart your car. This is another thing that I suggest that maybe people hadn't thought of. And believe it or not, I should have had a picture. I could have put it up but it's the size of, basically the size of your hand. That's how big the battery pack is. And you literally plug that thing into your battery in your car, and it can jumpstart
Oh,
your
wow.
your car. And I have that in my car. I've used it numerous times. And it seems like when you look at it, it's like, what? This can power my car? Because it's literally almost the same size as my battery pack for my phone.
Okay, I think they have it on Amazon. I think so. Okay. Yeah, very
I
cool.
Yes, yes. So
Yes.
thanks for catching in. And it is cool, because when you look at it, again, it's so small, you know, you're like, wow. And this is another one of those things of, oh, okay, you may not think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Carrying
Mm-hmm.
something your in your car with you, so that if your battery ever goes out, if you ever need to jump your car, you're not having to wait for somebody.
True.
And this is
Definitely.
small and achievable. It's not big and bulky that would even take a lot of room. The last thing is, this is not an expensive thing at all, but keep in handy your trusted water handy. All right.
Definitely.
This is good on so many levels. We're When we keep our water with us, we're in the habit of, we're automating our water intake, right? We're making
Mm-hmm.
it easy. I keep that thing in my purse. Keep it in your purse. Keep it at arm's length as much as possible. And then you make it easy to, okay, let me drink water throughout the day.
For sure. And then that type of container is not a plastic one, or
Right.
it's BPA free and things like that, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And one little tip is, one of the best places to buy these, if you have a Sam's Club membership,
Hmm.
because mind you, these can be pricey, but believe it or not, at Sam's you can get two of these for what I've seen the price of one. I bought two of these. It was about $20,
Okay. That
which,
is a
yes,
I
when you
think
go
I
in
know
the
the brand
store.
too.
What'd you say?
I can guess the brand too.
Well, I did hear, I didn't realize that some of those cups had warranties. I was like, wow, that's a whole nother level.
wow.
Didn't
Yeah.
know that. But if you're just starting out, once again, and if you're buying this from multiple people, and just wanting to, start out, if at Sam's you can get several of them.
Hmm.
And again, as Jim was saying, this is another eco-friendly solution, where instead of just having 20 plastic bottles, you can reuse that over and over. It
True.
doesn't mean, we're not here to be on the extreme end. Okay. Like I have plastic water bottles sometimes,
Hmm.
those are as backups, things like that. But I carry this with me. And so I'm able to refill this. And so the amount of times instead of carrying 5 plastic bottles with me in a daytime to drink, I have that. I have my little water cantina, and I refill this over and over. So whether your goal is to drink water to stay healthy, whether your goal is to be, better to the planet, this only benefits us all 360. We're drinking our water, we're saving money, and we're doing something that's more environmentally responsible.
And I think you don't have to feel guilty about having a plastic bottle. Let me tell you, one of the things I use those plastic bottles for. If you are carrying ice coolers and you need to keep the stuff cold, you freeze those bottles and then you use
Yes.
that water and you can reuse it several times. You don't have to go buy ice bags. That's one way of using those plastic bottles.
Hmm.
And yeah, you go back and forth. You don't have to fill them. You just use them, close them back and forth. And you have one of the things is that it does not spill out water, so your cooler comes back home cleaner and not with a lot of water in, doesn't become heavier. It's just a bottle, and in case you need to
Right.
drink the water, hey, you go ahead and you'll drink the water. I have another question. In my house, right, what can I change, like the carpeting? I know the window part, like do I change my clothing? Are there any brands that you would want to suggest to the people? And okay, one funny thing is, you're gonna laugh at this, but this is usually for the people who are kind of like woke, like, and it's not about woke by accident, but the we call them. I know, Jen. I had to use that. The people who like they are more urbanish, right? They have this sometimes like an eclectic feel to things. What would you do? Like, do we also change the type of clothing we wear? Are there special brands that we need to look at? We don't buy this Shin, because with Shin you buy quick. Not, well, I'm not counting out Shin. Ladies, you can go buy your stuff, but there is this where mass produced stuff gets picked up and then they sell them off with one design, and then after that they got to get rid of them because they're going quick, right? There's that idea. Now, are there any brands that we can go look at that will be sustaining the earth, that we can look into when you go shopping? Or they say I want to go buy furniture, is there a brand that I'll say, hey, this brand is what I'm looking for? Are we getting to that level yet in the real estate? Like not in the real estate, but since in our lifestyle and now in our housing, what do you recommend?
There are definitely people that are being more environmentally savvy and aware across the board. So as I answer your question, Sabaza, I want to encourage people, because I want to speak to that person that this is kind of their first introduction to this. That, remember, you can just start with the simple, start with, keep a water bottle, have a water bottle with you. And just keep in mind that you will save money. You save money by being able to refill your water bottle versus, I got to spend, $2 every time I go to the gas station to buy a bottle of water. So I want to talk to that person that is just starting out on this journey, and show them that they can evolve into this. So
Right.
certainly the people that are really valuing being eco-friendly, there's definitely a whole, tribes and communities of this, where yes, some people really they shop from environmental friendly brands. One,
Mhm.
for instance, with shoes is Tom's. When you buy Tom's, they donate is it I think it's 2 pair. They donate several pair. They also are more mindful of the uh, materials, from my understanding, that they put into the clothing. Now, the clothing facet of that, I could I'd have to get more names of brands. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but there are definitely brands that are being more mindful of environmentally conscious materials, as well as where these materials are sourced. Okay. And this conversation can get wide and deep. I want to keep it very simple and practical so people feel like, oh, okay, let me start here. Let me get my water bottle. Oh, okay, let me get a battery pack so that my phone's not dying. Let me start here. And then for those that are like, okay, yeah, I'm already there. I'm looking at building my investment portfolio. Let me be I want to have sustainable infrastructure. Okay, here are some things that I can do. If I don't want panels on the roof, I can have, put some panels on the ground, etc. But when it comes to fashion, there definitely are brands that are more eco-friendly. Bamboo is one material that is very soft, but there are also brands that are down to the where are we getting the materials from, because they want to make sure they're not being sourced from slave labor, things like that. But again, I don't want to overwhelm people because there's so many facets this conversation can go to. Fundamentally, if the lights go out, if the water is not in the healthiest state to drink, do you have infrastructure so that your family can thrive? And if so, for how long? Right now, if the power went down in your home, or if you're a business owner, if the power goes out in your corporation, do you have any infrastructure in place? Do you have any backup infrastructure? Do you have any backup power set up? Whether it be a generator.
Right.
If you are a homeowner right now and you're like, okay, I hear all of what they're saying. Getting solar panels is not in my budget, but I want to do something. At basic, you could get a solar power generator.
Okay.
That would allow you to power, depending on what size generator you get, that would allow you to power some basics in the event of the loss of power. So just if you start from just thinking fundamentally, how can I have the best measures in place for the safety of my family? If you're a business owner, for the safety and longevity of my company, what are some of the basic things that I have in place? Start from the basics and you can build from there. Because it's just like anything else, just like when we go to work out. Once you start to do it, it becomes a habit and then it's your lifestyle. Very simply, I literally keep this in my purse.
Oh, yes.
I
That's
keep this
awesome.
with me every day. And as you were saying, Jen, because this is stainless steel, I can put my lemon in here and I'm not, I'm not drawing in toxins because it's a plastic container.
Right. There you
So
go.
you just start with the basics. Start with what is tangible in your hands. Because guess what? If I'm driving and I cannot get, I stop somewhere and they're out of water, I at least have water this is not the largest container, right?
Right, for sure.
But I could get through half of the day. I could stretch this to the whole day if I was in the event of a disaster.
Right. And it
I
can be
drink.
refilled,
And safe,
so that's yeah.
safe drinking water that you know where it's coming from. Now, Jen, I think I'll go to the comments here. We have healing session here, and would like to welcome to the show. And Kimberly Rice Cofield, welcome, and Al Pete. Now, Kimberly has been enjoying this. She has been giving us a little bit here and there, saying so many great ideas, and thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. And Al Pete, welcome to the show, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for giving us a comment and an emoji. And Kimberly, you say, yes, this is true of the information that we have been provided for. So if you have any questions, you can always put them in the comments and we'll ask Damita, and she'll be able to answer your questions. Now, I want to go ahead. I had a question, but go ahead. What do you want to say?
Oh, sure. I'll wait. It's fine.
Okay. I wanted to talk about this interesting thing that you are told us in the beginning about your. We're gonna move away from the poetry, from the earth. We're gonna talk about poetry and your guitar playing. When do you do it, or
Oh, sure.
what kind of music do you play, and what kind of poetry do you write?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Since we're completely pivoting, if you don't mind me finishing my final thought with the
Oh, sure.
eco-friendly
That's
sustainability.
why I said,
Oh,
yeah,
sure. Okay.
ladies first. You see,
Oh, sure. I just
go ahead.
and you know, I this definitely would have been a great thing to share earlier on, even just and one of the reasons that I've got a passion for this sustainability, for eco-friendly, for having for being a part of people having solutions for just resilient infrastructure. One case study or one example is, you know, a few years ago, uh, one of my teammates who lived in Dallas during when they had that big power outage and it was freezing there, and people had to go live in hotels for several days. The power was out. It was freezing cold. Okay, so people are freezing in their houses. And so they had to go and be living in hotels. This is just one example where we see, even, well, US, but yes, Sambaza, wherever you're at, the power is out, and especially in inclement weather, that's a dire situation. Now, it's one thing to be burning up. I mean, nobody wants to burn up and be melting, but when it's freezing and now you're talking about the temp, you know, that's a matter of your health and welfare.
Yeah, I'm in Dallas actually, and
Okay.
yeah, the only reason why we survived was because we live right next to a police station, and that's how we're able to maintain power. Otherwise, yeah, everyone around us didn't have power.
Mm.
So you knew firsthand.
Right.
Yeah.
So at basics, backup generator. Okay. If you don't have the solar, if you don't have the power walls, it's okay. Don't feel, you know, people start where they can. But at minimum, if you have a backup generator, then you could at that particular time you could plug in a heater. You could keep your phone charged if you need to communicate. Okay, we're going to move from point A to point B.
Right.
Someone let you know, okay, yeah, you can come stay over here. But if our phones are dead and we have no way to communicate, we have no way to charge the phones. Now we're freezing. But at minimum, you have a backup generator. At minimum, do you have any supply of water? Do you have enough water? And once again, at Sam's, they sell the 5-gallon container water um, water containers. You can begin to store water in those.
Right.
But so you have infrastructure of, can our family thrive for a good? Could you thrive for 3 days? Could you thrive for a week with no power? If so, how? Candles. Do we have a lighter for the candles? Okay, so these are just basic things of being able to just share this information so that in the event of the power going out, whether it be at a residential or a commercial space, people can thrive. So this is one of the things of that really has been why I've incorporated this even within my real estate is just seeing Dallas was only one example. We could share example after example of the power went out, whether it be, someone in an area where there were snow. In my region, hurricane. And if you're in a tornado area, there's many different reasons. And, for me, this is a passion of people being equipped to continue to thrive. For companies to be able to keep their doors open and have the competitive advantage as consumers are intentionally purchasing from environmentally responsible corporations. So this is my contribution to people being able to be self-sustaining. And again, one example, I was driving the other week down in Orlando, and I had to have my car jumped. One of those times, because of my my little power battery jump that I carry with me, I didn't have to ask help for anybody. So these are just the small little things that help. And, when you see people that, the lights are down, the power's out, sometimes for a whole week. There's people that have medical equipment. There's some people that have to have medical equipment that they require power. And so it's like,
that's true.
It's not just always, oh, the power's out, when it's only out for an hour, that's one thing. But if the power's out for 3 days, 5 days, that power outage means a lot more to some people than others. There's people that have to have that power for medical devices, etc. And, this is why I'm open to expanding even with just the everyday consumer, because I just want to help. It's more of a passion, or it's more of a labor of love sharing with the everyday consumer, because really my consultancy is for corporations. But right. I found that as I'm talking to individuals, every corporation is made up of individuals.
Right.
And so there are some people, as we were talking about with Sambaza, that they want to have the basics in place. So you just start with the basic. Have a solar power generator, keep battery packs on you, keep water on you. And so I hope this was helpful in educating, the individual. And now we can segue into the art chat.
For sure. And so you also are a creative, as we mentioned. You tell us about some of your creative projects. Yeah, there's more than one, so you can share what you're willing to share.
Yes. So I've written spoken word for many years. And thank you so much, Kim. She's in here. I've actually started writing poetry when I was like in 5th grade. And, I actually really want to share a lot of gratitude for this moment, Jen, for you allow me to come here. And this hopefully will encourage someone. I've written poetry throughout the years since 5th grade, but I've gone through a season where I was not writing much, not sharing as in spoken word. I've gone through a long season where it's like a muzzle was on my mouth. And I hadn't been sharing my poetry, and I had lost a lot of confidence because of different things, different things that I face. But I'm very just thankful because, the Lord has really been lifting me higher and just reviving my spirit and just really giving me a new life. It's called a newness of life. And I'm like, Lord, I'm literally living that. Okay. It's like God is literally giving me a new life. And so it's just that breath of a breath of new resuscitation in my spirit, in my heart, in my soul. And so I'm getting back to, okay, let me plan events and whatnot. My goal right now is to plan an event in June. It's in honor of my mother, who was a musician. She was a flautist. And so I grew up in a home full of music. Mom always played. She played her flute all throughout the community. She's has, I believe it's 3 CDs that she recorded. And so just that musical legacy and energy, I just thank God for continuing to bring me back to that center. And so I'm expanded from my spoken word to also the guitar, as you were asking, Sambaza. So I'm still on the learning curve, but I just sit and vibe with the guitar. And one of my inspirations for picking up the guitar was after I had to transition with my brother, transition into heaven. I said a little joke was that, oh, I need something to hold. So I thought of the guitar. That was a little joke that I had, but Uh, it's also a way for me to translate the melodies. When I write poetry, write songs, I can translate some of the melodies with just the simple vibes on the guitar. And if you've never sat and just tried to play an instrument, I encourage everyone, maybe just try, whether you sit at a keyboard, sit with a guitar, and you will be amazed at how much you can create with even just one or two notes. I literally will sit and can write an entire song to two notes, just vibe for half an hour plus, just sitting on that guitar. And starting out, I literally would just vibe with two notes. Literally just, I call them my some of the songs are my 2-note wonders.
Wow.
But so don't feel that if there's anyone that has thought of playing an instrument, because you hear sometimes people say, they're like, oh yeah, I wish I could play this, or yeah, I've thought of playing this. Literally just sit and try. And you can go to Guitar Center and practice there, and then see, before you even buy something, go in Guitar Center. They have a whole room that's like insulated. They have a room that you can open and close the door because they keep the temperature controlled for those guitars. Sometimes, depending on when you go, there's nobody in there.
Interesting.
Yeah, you could go practice and sit with a guitar and just test it out. Sit with it and just.
So I have some few questions, and Kimberly's making this interesting on the comments. I had to go back to the comments. Welcome, Ed. She says one love family. Ed is a keen supporter of our collaboration, and Kimberly was talking about how power went off in Detroit for a few hours due to strong winds. And see, this is what you need actually at this moment. You need to have these backups, like you said. I was curious about the Precious Pine, the poet's spoken word artist, musician. And then she said, we loved Dr. Ellen Chavis, aka Lady Flute. Okay. There's something we don't know. You mind telling us? You mind telling us here who the people she's mentioning?
Yes, Dr. Ellen was my mother.
Okay.
And so, yes, she's a musician, and Kim is well versed with Dr. Ellen. Yes, her mom's writing stage name was Lady Flute. So again, she's a flautist, and she has several CDs that she recorded, and she traveled. She's been to Africa and whatnot. And so she's played with many musicians across the regions and whatnot. And she also always encouraged people to use their talents and gifts, especially, giving our gifts back to God, if you believe in that the spiritual, having a spiritual center. But that was Mom's life message, was to, give your talent back to God. And she lived that. And so Kim is attesting to that. She's met my mother and whatnot.
Okay.
And Damita, you have our condolences for the losses that you experienced. You mentioned your brother also passed away. So our condolences to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad actually, Sambaza, that you mentioned this. It's cool that you're bringing up the art facet, and this actually will tie right in even with Kim's comment on the loss of power again in Detroit, because even when we think of just the past few years, what we navigated when we now, depending on where you live, Florida wasn't as affected, but many other regions, people weren't able to go out as much. And so here they were at home, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So here we've been talking about eco-friendly, we've been talking about sustainability, but on a broader sense, sustainability, now this is branching out to, just the house, just how your house is ran. In the event that you can't go out, that we have to be at our house more, What are some things that we can do at home other than sit on Instagram or watch movies? What
True.
are some creative outlets so that, let's say, we got to be at home for 3 months? Everybody, the kids, no school, you work from home, etc. What are some things that we can do, whether it be individually or as a family, that aren't social media related? What are our creative outlets? So you all are podcasting here. Jen has, some different uh, facets with her thrifting and fashion. She can have a fashion show at home. She could live stream her fashion show. Sambaza, um, I don't know if you do you play any instruments or
No,
any
that
creative?
that ship sailed, but I'm more art painting. My kids my daughter plays the flute, my son plays the
Oh my
flute.
goodness.
Yeah,
Now that. Okay.
yeah,
You
but
said your son plays what?
the sax. He played the
Oh,
alto, and then I think now he plays the other, the smaller one.
Oh
That's
my
another story. That's another
gosh.
story for another day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I meant to put that in my notes, but actually as another tip, so that when we're at home, what can we create in the event? And I say in the event we have to be home, but even when it's not we have to be at our house. What are some other outlets other than sitting on social media? Kim is also an artist. She's a musician. She plays instruments. She writes. Her and her husband, they are traveling gospel recording artists. So if I go over
okay.
her house right now, we could vibe. Pull out the guitar. She can pull out the piano. Even if
Yeah.
we didn't have any instruments, we could freestyle and spoken word, rap, poetry, write a song. And so, she mentioned that she had a power outage. If we all had a power outage and we, of course, sitting at each other's house, because it'd be a little dicey live streaming. But what are some things that we could do?
Right. I had a question. You sound corny. Do you ever, and this is where I'm trying to bring, that's the reason why I was trying to throw out the guitar playing and then come back to whatever we're talking about in terms of the earth. Do you ever like go out, for picnics and sit in in a quiet area and play your music? Does that make you now be in tune with nature? And with that sense of being in tune with nature, I think it starts clearing your mind and gives you an open mind to explore things that you could do in your normal life. Like you want to incorporate one of these things. You know what I'm talking about. When you're out there, there's no
Yes.
the city life, no rush, nothing. You're just sitting there. You have your guitar, you play, or you just recite your spoken word to yourself as you're there. Do you do that in your spare time?
I have gone out with my guitar and I love the water. I love a place where there's beautiful trees. Now, I will preface that right now, the heat index is not favorable in my particular region, but there are times definitely when I've done that, and I love being out in nature and vibing because it's for me. My art is my connection is my highest connection with God, and so when I'm out in nature, like there's just no walls, there's no roof over my head, and so the wind, the fresh air, if I'm by the water or the trees, it's just the breath of God breathing. And I just vibe with the spirit of God. And the Lord just gives me so many poems or songs. And I do love to sit out in nature, especially when the weather is favorable. When it's 90 degrees, I am not a heat person, and if it's freezing, I so when those temperatures are right in the space, I do enjoy doing that.
Yeah, but Yeah, and with that being said, when you put it in that fact that there's water, because I know trees will give you water, and they're the ones that create the rivers and populate everything, and they oxygen, great oxygen. Um, you you tend to realize, yes, I need to sustain the earth well. I need to plant a tree, maybe in my backyard, tree or two, or maybe volunteer to go plant trees somewhere else, and make sure that the world is full of trees. And with the world being full of trees, that means you get rain, even though some people don't like rain. But it is important because that's what sustains us in life or in this earth. Because now that's when we start having, if we diminish that idea of having to sustain that energy, I think we'll be losing something. And again, the trees are not there. That means we're going to get a lot of heat because there's not going to be any water. And here you are, Demeter, you can't go play the guitar out in nature because we lost something on the way you know
And Sambaza, I lived out in Los Angeles for like 6-7 years. So when you live in an area where there's no trees, I mean, I wasn't complaining about that when I was out there, because they have other things that are beautiful. The water, the beaches, that's like a big thing. But out there, actually, there's definitely intentionality to use different types of materials to deflect the sunlight. So they've even had conversations about even like certain types of sorry, the names escapes me. Not phosphate. The
sun rays you're talking about,
no,
the
what you make
ultraviolet
the
heat.
roads.
Oh, the tarmac.
The
They use
names escape.
tarmac, and they use I know the oil. It's oily.
What they create the roads out of. There's been alternative like glazing or different ways that they're creating the roads, and some deflect more sunlight because the old materials absorb and attract a lot of sunlight. And so in these neighborhoods, it's extremely hot. The pavement, there we go, pavement. The pavement is very hot, and that of course affects the residents that are walking through. So there's all types of and this is called building science, if anybody wants to look this up, where there's alternative materials that some are to deflect sunlight, things of that nature, for areas that have hardly any trees. But when you live in an area when there isn't trees, and you come back and you're around trees, you really appreciate it so much more. And you see where it's like, man, oh, I miss this. I miss all the trees. But each place has its own beauty. California has its own beauty. It's just, they've built up so much that in most of, Los Angeles, for instance, in the metropolis areas, there are very, very few trees, but it does affect, sunlight and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess we will go ahead and conclude our conversation. We enjoyed having Damita. We will include her website in the show notes. Anything else you want to add, Damita, before we conclude?
I just want to encourage everyone to start small, even with eco-friendly habits, and whatever reason is meaningful to you, but it fundamentally so that you can thrive for yourself. And if you have a family, you all can be taken care of. You have the basics. You have your water, you have an energy source, and of course we didn't get into food or things like that, but just so you have some basic preparations in place. Do you have 3 to 7 days at minimum? Just start somewhere. 3 to 7 days of all of the above to be able to sustain for 3 to 7 days. Just start from there, and then you can evolve.
Definitely love that. There's, I mean, so many facets of this.
Yes.
We didn't even get into like the
Yes.
clothing, thrifting piece. If you're
Yes, right.
looking for an outfit, instead of going to the mall, maybe go to a thrift store or
Yes.
online thrift store or independent thrifter.
Jen's
to,
thrift, Jen's store. What's your
I mean,
website, Jen?
curvyclosetwithjen.com. I'm just saying it ain't gotta be me, but
Yes, it can be you. Let's put that in the notes. Put, put it
we
in the
can
chat.
put that in the notes that there are some independent thrifters that you can, reach out to. And then this is part of being sustainable, which is what we were talking about today. In acknowledgement of Earth Month, Earth Day is approaching us, and we want to be thinking about how we could be more sustainable. Sambaza, any final words on the topic, sir?
I think we just realized that this is a very big topic that we encountered today. And I really appreciate, Damita, you actually broke it down and said, hey, let's start from the basics up, going up forward. Because I think when we started off, I was thinking more about the solar energy. I got so excited about solar energy because we could go back and forth about solar energy and all that, having gone through all that. But I think when you started telling us about the other things that come into play, and we look at the whole idea, and right now Jen's saying, hey, instead of going to buy a brand new dress, hey, look at the thrifter and get one that has been used and that can fit you and looks nice, and you're saving part of the ecosystem instead of having to go back and try to the factory that gives out the fumes and all that, burning the ozone layer and stuff like that. See, you're cutting down on that. And plus the fact that you're also creating another micro industry somewhere else. See, so
Yes.
it's a big thing. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate you having to say let's start small, because that's where
Mm-hmm.
we kind of have to start from. Like uh, when you say food, shelter, clothing, that's the basic. And then now when we start doing with all those three, start figuring out how we can be able to make that more sustainable. I really appreciate that, and thank you for enlightening us with this information.
Yes, for sure. It starts even with a bottle of water that you can refill
Yes.
rather than buying these wasteful packs of plastic that, is not good and could choke a little bird or something. I don't know. But no, love that. And we will have to talk about this again because just like you said, this is all related, from the real estate, homeowner piece, solar panels, bottles of water, containers, thrifting, it's something that we really need to be talking about in our community. So I appreciate Ms. Damita again. Thank you, thank you. And continued success. And Sambaza will be back for more great episodes. Come check us out next Wednesday and Friday um, for great additional content, and we'll be posting about it. So we thank you guys who were here today. And with that, take care. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out. And also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. And please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.